Welcome to the Hiscall Technology Podcast, where we are communicating tomorrow's business needs today. From just outside Nashville, Tennessee, join Hiscall as we discuss all things telephony, data, and infrastructure related to business leaders. Here we go.
Hello, this is Chuck, your host for the Hiscall Technology Podcast. Want to thank you for taking the time to listen in here today. I'm honored to have back in the podcast studio with me Gary Luffman, our president and CEO. You know, this is the time of year when our manufacturing partners have their sales kickoff and partner events to kind of set the stage for what the year's going to look like. And we've just recently returned from a trip that we went to Mitel Next. Also, a few of us went down to Atlanta for a Sangoma Roadshow. But today on the podcast, Gary and I are going to talk about our trip to Denver, Colorado, to Mitel Next. We'll highlight some of the things that we learned out there and just give you some updates on kind of the industry and where Mitel's headed, and we can talk some about Sangoma also. But Gary, as you know, if you've been listening to the podcast, he's been on many episodes, and I'm privileged to have him back today. Gary, I know you got a lot going on. Thank you for taking a few minutes to come in and sit down today.
Well, Chuck, thank you for inviting me back. I always enjoy doing these things. I'm sorry yesterday we actually had this scheduled and just could not work it in, but we're here now, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, that's all right. I know you had a prospect in here yesterday that was a potential to be a really good opportunity for us. So,
oh yeah, very much.
You got to do that.
Looking for data services help and some audio visual. So yeah, very very good opportunity.
Okay, very good. We're just a few weeks back from Mitel Next. We had a really good trip. We chose to drive from our place here in Tennessee out to Denver, Colorado. It makes a nice little drive.
That was very interesting when we mentioned that to some of the staff here and some of the vendors. Even they were like, "You're going to drive?" I said, "Yeah, we decided we're going to take this." And you know, I've been out west as you have many times, but I've never taken the drive out there, and it was really really nice. I'd encourage anybody, if you've got the time, and we just made the time to do it. We plugged in an extra day, and it was really nice. Saw all these these wind farms for turbine generators, and then you get to interesting looking them up, and there's like over 3,000 of those things in Kansas, and wow. And then at night when we drove through there, all the flashing lights on the top of them, they were all in unison. It was just amazing. Among other things, it was beautiful countryside, and I thoroughly enjoyed that trip.
I enjoyed it myself. You know, that's the third time I have driven from Middle Tennessee out to Denver. It's changed some, but not a great deal. But getting across Kansas feels like 2 days.
Oh yeah, it was just I enjoy those, seeing open spaces and farmland, and as you recall too, we saw a few oil rigs.
That's right.
Yeah, like you would in Texas and Oklahoma, and they were actually some in operation, some weren't. But yeah, it was really really good trip.
Those wind farms, it was fun for me because I had seen them before, but for me to see your expression when we were driving up on them.
I mean, in East Tennessee, there's some that when I've flown over in our plane to see there, I forgot exactly. I want to think it's around Morristown or somewhere. There's a hill there, mountainside, and there's a few of them up there, and that's nice to see. But I mean, there's maybe like a few dozen, and these are out there were like thousands in Kansas. I've just never seen anything like it.
Right. Just as it is hard to imagine if you haven't seen it. Just about as far as you can see, these windmill.
And the other thing you notice that we picked out a whole lot in communication, a lot of towers that were more frequent than you would see here, and that's because of that flat farmland, which is beautiful. They have to have more of them because they can't be up as tall and reflect the signal like they do. And so that was interesting to see how many of those were out there, too, because we didn't really ever lose cell coverage.
Yeah, that was a good catch on your part. You noticed that and brought it to my attention. I had not thought about that, but it's very interesting for sure.
Yeah, very nice. But I enjoyed the trip. The time with the Mitel folks was great. It was a good show. I think the manufacturers and distributors and everybody's just finally getting back to like things used to be pre-COVID.
Right. Yeah, it was good to be back. I guess that's the first kind of conference I've been to since COVID. And this was kind of special. Mitel was kind of celebrating 50 years in business.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So,
and speaking of conferences, I might as well go ahead and plug it right now. In October, we're going to be having our Hiscall Technology Showcase event coming up again. Everybody will be getting notices on emails and stuff as the time gets closer. Our committee meetings have started. We've got our venue that's going to be right here in Dixon at the Hiscall Community Center. This time, because of the, I'd say the big elephant in the room right now, a lot of people are talking about Microsoft Teams. Now, I'd like to remind everybody that, yes, we can be your source for Microsoft products here at Hiscall. And with the different manufacturers that we do in the voice world of Mitel and Sangoma and Avaya and Wildex, the Microsoft Teams is the big topic. You had this idea coming back from Colorado about having a panel discussion, and that had been brought up in our committee, and we're planning to have a panel discussion, folks, first thing that morning. I believe the date is October the 24th. If you're listening and want to mark it on your calendar, save the date, please do so. And the first thing on the agenda is a panel discussion of these 4 phone manufacturers about Microsoft Teams, and we'll have somebody there to represent Microsoft Teams and see how that integration works with those phone systems, because that is a big topic, and it seems like that's what everybody's talking about right now, is that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to have the Hiscall Technology Showcase back. We've not done it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And the Microsoft Teams piece is going to be good. I attended a breakout session in Colorado at Mitel's Next event, and it talked about the different ways that Mitel integrates or utilizes Teams to integrate the two systems. Not a lot of Teams users have telephony functionality in there, so all of the telephony manufacturers integrate with Teams in one way or another. And so to have the panel where they can just kind of talk about the different ways that they do it's going to be pretty exciting.
I think so, too. I really like that suggestion you had. And when you mentioned that, I'm thinking, man, we need to run with that because, Microsoft, such a big player. And of course, we use 365 here and we're doing all sorts of things. But we've also found, as well as some people that have tried, the voice product of Microsoft Teams is not as strong and as robust as the 4 brands that I mentioned that can do the voice communications and all the bells and whistles that people want to do. Now, yeah, granted, for some application, Teams alone can do voice, but not for anybody typically that we have found when they do need call centers and heavy-duty applications, certain features and functionality. So that's why the integration of Teams with the solid products that I've just mentioned would work so much better, and that's the discussion that we're going to have openly with everybody and have this panel.
So if you would like to attend the Hiscall Technology Showcase, reach out to your account consultant or contact us here at Hiscall, and we'll be sure that you can get a registration link, get signed up, and you can attend that event.
Oh, and I might add, too, as always, the show is free. We're starting 8 or 8:30 that morning, and it'll be over around 2 o'clock. So it ought to be a real good, eventful, and fun day.
That's right, for sure. Well, Gary, let's circle back to the Mitel Next event. I want to talk about, I mentioned 50 years, and one of the ways they celebrated that was they had one of their co-founders there at Mitel Next.
Terry Matthews.
Yep. kind of confirmed on one of the previous episodes of the podcast. I gave the story of how Mitel started, and it was Mike and Terry's lawnmowers.
Electric lawnmowers.
That's right.
Yep.
That didn't work out. He started selling touch-tone receivers, and that just evolved into what we know as Mitel today. And that was really exciting. But you had an opportunity to meet him.
I did.
And sit and talk with him, and even had your picture made with him.
I did.
Right?
Mr. Matthews, actually, I should say Sir Matthews.
That's right.
That's what started the conversation in the presentation where he was on stage with Frank Siffington, and I noticed the Sir Terry Matthews. While you and I were at a break, it was like a snack time out there, and we're talking to different vendors. I noticed him off to the side by himself, and I went up to him. The first question I asked him was, I said, "Do you mind if I ask you, how did you become a sir, or why?" And he said, "My mom and my dad." And I said, "Really?" And I said, "So the Queen really did knight you?" And he said, "Yes." And he gave me the hand gesture, how she did it, and we got talking and laughing. And so as we talked a little bit more, I said, "Look, do you mind if could I have a picture with you?" And I normally don't do that, Chuck. As you know, I've met different people in politics and, you know, country music singers and so forth, as you can imagine, around in this part of the country. But he is one that I wanted. And he looked at me and he says, "You know, I normally don't do that because I do not want it on social media." And I looked at him and said, "I don't even like social media." And he said, and he sternly looked at me and said, with a finger about in my face, he said, "You promise it won't go on social media?" I said, "I promise you, sir, it will not." So I have never forwarded or taken, but he's a really likable guy. But he said, "It's not about me, it's about the product. It's about the brand of the system." He gave a lot of good wisdom, advice of the years over business, and I really appreciate the time I got to spend with him, and we talked for quite a bit.
I looked back through my notes on the event, and he said a couple of things I wanted to just get an opportunity to get your feedback on, because I'm certain that they resonate with you as well. But one thing he said, timing in life is almost everything.
Yes, he did. He certainly did.
You've experienced that with Hiscall. It so much is about timing, right?
Yes, timing does have a whole lot to do with it. I think anybody that knows me knows I'm going to give the good Lord the credit, because that's where he deserves it. It's his, for his glory. And I do feel like a lot of the things that we've done here at Hiscall that I felt led to at certain times, we need to do this and do that and change and shift. There's a lot of things that we have delved into over the years that we try and say, okay, is this going to work? Is that going to work? Sometimes the latest development, the latest software, the latest widget is not ready, or maybe it doesn't have a good business application.
Right.
It looks good on paper. It looks good in PowerPoint, but you find out, okay, and there's other factors you got to have, availability, price, overall cost going forward, and so forth, and reliability. So we take all those things in consideration and see if that makes a good business sense decision to do or not.
That's really good. I hadn't even put Hiscall in relation to the timing thing, but when you do surrender your life there, it is his call and his timing.
That's right.
In that relationship. There was something else he said as it relates to relationship that I've heard you say almost these very words. He said it's all about relationships.
It is.
I think on our last podcast, you and I, we talked about relationships. So.
It is. To me, in business, look, let's just face it, to our listeners, we know that what we do here, you look on our website, you see the brands that we do and so forth. You can Google this and find this stuff anywhere. But when you're talking about service like we do, who's going to be there for you at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Christmas day if you need that person? We will. Who's going to be there for you at any time, day or night, or in a catastrophic situation? We will. Or if it's just normal, how do you install something and do it properly? We do. that's the piece that we bring to it, is here at Hiscall is taking care of our customers the good old-fashioned service way. And as I've said for many, many years, Chuck, it's not about what we do or what products that we have or how big we are or anything else. It has to do with how good are we at it, and we never want to lose focus on taking care of our valued clientele and making sure we're with them through thick and thin. And talking about the relationship piece, I think we mentioned this before too. We do get to know our customers very well, our clients, and we really appreciate that relationship to the point that, we laugh with them, we cry with them. We know when babies are born, we're trying to always be there for people through the thick and the thin times and any time that they need us. There have even been times that we would have somebody that's going through some, businesses ebb and flow, and there have been times that people need our help back in even in COVID, and the cash flows weren't there, and we said, well, we'll come help you anyway, and you can pay us later. Right. So it's all about those relationships.
You need to be able to trust the people that you're in partnership with and have mutual respect for one another. Recently, well, not so recently now, it's been over a year, Mitel made an announcement in regards to what had been the ShoreTel product, and you've commended them multiple times for the approach they've taken on that. Why has that been so important to you in the way that they've approached that news?
I really like the vision that Mitel is portraying. When you actually picked up on the announcement first, you attended a webinar, and wasn't it a year ago, January, February?
That's right.
That you called me and said, okay, Mitel has announced sunsetting the My Voice Connect, which is ShoreTel. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm used to, in my position, getting letter notices from manufacturers, not a webinar, not a notice, or maybe an email that says we're going to stop this, and they might give you 6 months or a year. Mitel has taken the approach that to continue support on the product at some level all the way through the end of the decade. So we're looking at 2029 to work with our folks that use the product, which has been a fantastic product all these years. And as you and I picked up out in Colorado, we got more information as to why they're having to do this, which makes perfect sense. But so it's not only the time frame, but it's the financial offers that they're making to transition. They're just thinking good long-term business, in my opinion. So I do commend them for that. And they constantly stay in touch about this. And we've gone to several of our customers and already brought this up in a migration path. If the customers do want to stay on the Mitel platform, about what that migration path is, how much will it cost, and what time frames have we got. So I commend them for how they're doing it, because technology does change. Mitel thinks about it in a good business way. They want to keep the market share, and they know that if they do something drastic, they could run off that market. So I think they're handling this very well and giving plenty of time for people. And they've also told me and told you that, look, if you've got somebody that we can help, and we can even negotiate some certain conditions to help people migrate to that. Now, the good news is the what I've called, as you know, the Mitel ShoreTel, Mitel. So to our listeners, the My Voice Connect is what we all knew as ShoreTel. My Voice Business is what I call Mitel. It was the product developed by Mitel many years ago that is transitioned. It's fully enterprise grade. The ShoreTel product has done a fabulous job for so many customers, especially in the financial sectors, because of how you program, and you got one login to hit all these different branches of banks and different mini locations. The My Voice Business does that, but it also offers more features, whereas we've talked about how many features does the ShoreTel My Voice Connect product have, and we know it's less than 100, basically. The My Voice Business has hundreds of features, and so they basically have everything that this product has plus a whole lot more. It's a very strong product, not only in financial and healthcare, hospitality. You go to hotels, you're going to find more of the Mitel product in hotels than you will probably any other brand. It's a lot in all these different sectors of business. So it's very feature rich, very robust. And then they've come out recently, as you know, with these small business edition of the product, so it can affordably go for the small customers, which I was very happy to see that. Well, so I think they're thinking good long-term business strategy, and I applaud them for that. Well, one more thing too, if we had any listeners that has a Siemens product, Mitel has announced that they just bought the Siemens company, which was I'm going to down a date myself, but it was the Rome product in the 80s that turned around and IBM bought them, and then Siemens bought, and Siemens Unify is the product. Mitel has just announced that they bought that, so they'll be adding that into their portfolio as well.
Yeah, that's exciting news. You mentioned long-term strategy. The plan is to be number one unified communications provider globally, and that Unify acquisition expands their presence globally. You mentioned the different sectors, and one of the things I left Mitel Next focused on and aware of is that most of Mitel's business in the Americas comes from 5 verticals. You mentioned one of them, hospitality. Mm-hmm. You mentioned another one, finance. Mm-hmm. They also are strong in healthcare, education, and state and local government. Mitel, in this long-term strategy that you've been talking about, is focusing on their core business, their core products. We don't hear so much talk about cloud communications, UCaaS with them. I mean, they're talking about My Voice Business, but they are talking about all the integrations that they have in these different verticals, which is really important for a solution delivery, is how do you help business through integrations in healthcare with Cerner and Epic, and in finance with Fiserv and Jack Henry, where these banking vendors.
And in healthcare, you've also got HIPAA regulations.
That's right.
Fully compliant. We've had so many episodes over time where you've had other guests too, and we talk about Hiscall Cloud Services, our other offerings that we have. There's still a big market sector that needs, in my opinion, premise-based equipment, and Mitel recognizes that. Therefore, that's their big push right now, is for those customers like your big banks, your big medical facilities, your universities and schools, all those market segments that you mentioned. Let's face it, this is business. You got to add up the dollars. What's your overall cost to have cloud? What's your overall cost for premise? Also, your reliability, safety factors. As you know, we've done some cloud deployments where we felt like, okay, this is great and it's wonderful, but we feel like we probably better put a backup server here for 911 services and for inter-office communication should you lose internet. And we've done that. So this is just another way of going about doing it. But again, in certain applications, obviously, it's just like in the hotel-motel market. You've got all the hotels that have to be in compliant to provide a phone in a room. Well, by the time that you add up all those costs, about the monthly, what would it take to have that deployed on a premise-based system? And mathematically, now I'm talking about money, mathematically, you're going to be overall less expensive to keep a premise-based system for a lot of your hotels, your big hospitals, some of your bigger banks, and so forth and so on.
You certainly have carried that message for a long time that, systems fit in different verticals, in different businesses. Some are good as a service, cloud-based businesses. Others need a premise-based system. You've advocated that for a long time, and to hear you talk with a customer, it's good to hear you ask the questions to find out, is this really the right thing for you? A lot of times customers hear about cloud, and so they think they got to go to cloud. They just need to go to cloud. But you're really good to talk with them to say, is this really what you need to do? And it is good business sense for them. We have options to take them to cloud.
We have options. And listen, I don't ever claim to know it all. But I do tell folks, collectively around here at Hiscall, we've got a lot of wonderful talent. And collectively, we do know quite a bit, because this is what we live, eat, and breathe, and every day. Yes, there have been some times that I've been known to talk with prospective customers or existing customers, and they want to go in one direction, and I'll give them. I said, look, I'm going to give you my professional and personal opinion, and sometimes people take me up on that, sometimes they don't. And there have been some times that somebody says, well, I think we want to do this still. And I have been known to say, I don't think we need to even propose that, because I'm afraid it won't work out for you. I don't want to lose your business, but I'd rather leave you and we still be friends than to do something that I don't think is going to work well for you. And and I won't call names of customers that have done that, but then they would come back later and say,
Right.
well, you did try to tell us, and no, it didn't work out well, so what can we do? It's just a fact that we do what we do around here, and we try to do it well and to the best of our abilities, because also, as you know, I'll personally stand behind it, that if it's not right, then we will make it right. Even if we do something wrong, we'll even give somebody a full refund, because we want to make sure that our reputation stays intact, and we'll do whatever we got to do to make sure that we've done the right job for our customers. So yes, there have been times that I know deep in my heart this is not going to be a good fit, and you're not going to like the outcome, and therefore we will withdraw from a bid situation. Most of the time it has eventually paid off. That was the right thing to do, because we don't want anybody that's going to be unhappy with us. That's the big thing. And again, it goes back to what you said earlier about relationships.
Exactly.
We want to keep that relationship solid and intact.
And you have to make effort to win mutual respect and trust in doing the right thing.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, Gary, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you took away from Mitel Next that would be good for our listeners to hear?
Not necessarily. Again, I commend the corporation, Mitel Corporation, for thinking long-term business strategy, not just short-term gains. I really applaud them for doing that. To be in business, this is our 27th year, and they've been 50 years.
Right.
And you don't do that by making short-term decisions for quick money gains. You've heard me say it before, that the money is secondary here. It's going to be providing that customer service, because I've always believed if you take care of the customers, the bottom line will take care of itself. And it goes back to, what's on the back of our business cards, the golden rule.
That's right.
Treat people like you want to be treated. Luke 6:31. That's how I feel like we're instructed to do the right thing for customers. And I do believe that Mitel, as a large corporation, is trying to do that. So they're giving plenty of time for people to make this transition. And not everybody's going to transition. We know that. But for those who want to, just like we had guests here in our building last Friday, and during that time we had several people from Mitel on video call. And at the end of it, customers said, we're not going anywhere. We're definitely staying with y'all, and we're not going to change brands. We like the message. This is so we're going to be planning that path to go forward with the product, and now it's just going to come down to the money situation, which I think, again, Mitel is going to come up with some good solutions, because you and I have already talked with them since then.
Yep. I think it's important that we mention it costs you money, that we have to train and get certified on the new product. And so we are trained on My Voice Business. We're ready to go and do those migrations, those new installs in hospitality, healthcare, finance, state and local government, education. We're ready for it. And
we'll just remind everybody, the Mitel product can be in smaller applications as well.
Yep.
When they came out with that recent product scaled down, that was a wonderful piece. You've got one small server there that's got so many ports, and it's virtually the same product, just in a smaller box.
Yep, strong. That SMB controller is a really exciting product and is going to fill the need in a lot of places for small, medium enterprise and branch locations.
That's true.
Well, Gary, I almost just, when you talked a second ago about doing the right thing, I thought, man, that's just a good place to end the podcast.
You know how you always like to end this, and I'm going to add something before you say your words that you always like to end.
All right.
Folks, we're not promised another breath.
So
and
true.
Life is short. And I can tell you that here at Hiscall, we are not perfect by no means, but we try really, really hard to do the right things. And I want to leave a legacy behind that people can say he did try to treat everybody right.
Yep.
That's the thing I believe we need to do in business and in personal. Just summarize, it just goes back to just trying to do the right thing.
That's right. Every day, let's do the right thing every day. And as we close out today, I don't know what you may be facing in your business. You're trying to figure out what the timing is for some big decision. Maybe it seems insurmountable right now, but just keep doing the right thing. As Gary said, if you do the right thing, take care of customers, the bottom line will take care of itself. So as we wrap up today, don't be afraid, only believe.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Hiscall Technology Podcast. Subscribe to this podcast so you can stay up to date with today's business communication trends. To learn more about Hiscall solutions for your business needs or to listen to previous podcasts, visit us at our website, hiscall.com.